All right, so now being 6 o'clock, I'll call the April 27th meeting of the Old Colony Planning Council to order. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon request. If you'd like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 extension 202. The Notice of Non-Discrimination Rights and Protections to Beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is posted in this meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 extension 202 for more information. Mary, could you or Sandra do roll call vote?
Sandra will be doing it. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, 1 second. We can't hear you. Hang on. Yeah, Madam Secretary.
Okay, thank you very much. When I do the roll call, please tell me if you're the delegate or the alternate. Abington.
Present. Delegate.
Avon.
Delegate, alternate.
Okay. Bridgewater, delegate. Brockton.
No
Jacksonville.
representative.
I'm sorry, do we hear, I have Brockton?
There's no representative this time from Brockton.
Okay. East Bridgewater,
Delegate.
Easton,
Delegate.
Halifax, Hanover, Hanson,
Delegate.
Kingston, Pembroke,
Delegate.
Plymouth,
Delegate.
Plimpton,
Delegate.
Stoughton, West Bridgewater,
Delegate.
thank you. Whitman,
He should be on his way. Just for the record, Easton, Jean Marie Joyce is here. And if I could, for staff, we have Charles Kilmer, Brenda Robeson, Sean Noel, and Kyle Mowat, and Kyle's son Hunter. Did I miss anybody? I think I've got everybody. And then of course, we have our guest speaker today will be District Attorney Cruz.
Great. Thank you, Mary, and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Sounds like we've got a full house today. You're pretty close to it, which is terrific. So Mary, did you want to do the minutes and then we'll go into have the district attorney speak, or do you want to have him speak right now?
I think if we have him speak right now.
Beautiful. Okay, Sandra, did you want to do an introduction?
sure. So we have, thank you, Tim Cruz, our DA Cruz, for being here this evening. I suggested that we bring you in and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing throughout the communities for such a long time. So for anybody who doesn't know him, I'll give you a little glimpse of what he is all about and how much time and what he's done throughout the community. District Attorney Cruz has served as Plymouth County District Attorney for 20 years. He has worked to protect and promote public safety with local police departments and Massachusetts State Police. His primary responsibility is to enforce the laws by investigating and prosecuting criminal cases. DA Cruz is currently Vice President of the Massachusetts District Attorney Association. He is past Vice President of the National District Attorney Association, where he serves on the NDAA Opioid Working Group. District Attorney Cruz serves as a member of the Massachusetts Office of Victim Assistance, Department of Correction Advisory Council, Governor's Council on Capital Punishment, and the Forensic Technology of Subcommittee of the Governor's Commission on Criminal Justice Innovation. DA Cruz worked in private practice as an assistant district attorney in Plymouth County, graduated from Boston College and Suffolk University Law School. DA Cruz is admitted to both the Massachusetts United States District Bar, as well as the United States Courts of Appeals and the Supreme Court of the United States. Just some of the many programs he has brought to the table allowing the public to be educated is opioid awareness, human trafficking, guns, drugs, alcohol awareness, violence intervention, cyber safety training. I'm sure I could go on for a lot longer than this, but I wanted to cut it down to turn it over to him. But on a personal note, I just wanted to thank him so much for working with Dr. Muse at the Brockton Hospital and educating and updating us as EMS and being able to be more efficient in treating and taking care of our patients and being aware of when to make notice that there's a problem. So welcome, DA Cruz, and we're happy that you're here.
Thanks, Sandy, and thanks, Mary, and thanks, Council, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always interesting to hear your bio. It was a lot more exciting when it was happening than it sounded when you're just reading it. But there's so many great things going on. I like to be here with Eldon because Eldon, I'm a West Bridgewater guy. I grew up there. I was born in Brockton Hospital. I grew up in West Bridgewater. And I've been working here in Brockton for the last 37 years, whether as a criminal defense lawyer or an assistant DA in the 80s, when I worked for Bill O'Malley, and now I'm the DA for the last 20 years after Mike Sullivan. And it's been really quite a trip. And many things that we do that people don't know what we do. And that's what I like to talk about is, many times I ask people, do you know what the DA does? And I get kind of a vague look at everybody's face and I say, well, do you watch Law and Order? And I'll say, oh yeah, do you watch CSI? They go, yeah. I go, well, it's nothing like that. That's television. That's television, crime to conviction, 60 minutes with commercials. My job is a lot different. I am the chief law enforcement official here in Plymouth County. And that means that all cases that are prosecuted, whether they be state misdemeanors or felonies, we deal with them, and we deal with thousands of them. We have approximately 60 lawyers on our staff. We have approximately 130 employees altogether. We have 4 different locations. The closest location is right over there on 166 Main Street, not too far from here. We've been for the last 5 or 6 years. And it was really a great upgrade for us from moving from 32 Belmont to where we ended up over there. It's just state of the art. When we put us in a position, gave us more room, more space, and we were able to move the state police who are assigned to the DA's office. Every DA in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has a number of state police who are assigned to them. And so we're supposed to have 24 in the best of times. So we have right around that number now. And the state police are assigned to investigate all of the homicide cases, working in conjunction with the local police and all the major drug cases that are going on. So we do all sorts of things like that. And every day we have lawyers in court working throughout our county, trying to do the best we can to give our victims a voice and to make sure that we can help the children, help the seniors, and do what we do best, which is trying to bring justice to them, be brutally honest as to what the situation is. You can't tell people what they want to hear, you have to tell them the truth. And sometimes the truth is not what you want to hear. And that's what we try to strive to the young lawyers and say, you do the very best you can. We're all humans, people make mistakes. Well, let's go forward and do the very best that we can. But some of the stuff that we do, and I was asked to speak about our programs, say with seniors. And seniors are something that obviously, I'm a senior now, and we go out, I go to the Council on Aging all throughout Plymouth County, and we do various programs. It was a challenge, I'll be honest with you, during COVID, we weren't able to go to the COAs. So what we did was we morphed what we normally do, which we would go to a COA and talk about whatever the issue was at that time, whether it be scams, whether it be triads, which are programs that we have here in our county with our COAs, working together, the senior council that they put together in the local COAs, work with the local police and fire, and really do a good program to keep our seniors safe. And during the Zooms that we were doing during senior safety, we were doing them all throughout the county. I think I did 35 of them or so during that time period, all through the various COAs. And it was great because we have seniors on, they could ask me questions. We could have a back and forth while making sure everybody stayed safe. And then we stayed away from the COVID stuff. So that was very good. And what we're talking about are the same issues that are really important to go on and talk about trying to prevent things before they happen. Because especially scams. Scams are, unfortunately, they're out there and they're after everybody. And one of the worst things that can happen is that if you are scammed or somebody's trying to get you the stuff that you've earned throughout your life, people get embarrassed if they get beat by these guys and they don't want to tell anybody. And that's the worst thing we can do. We need to make sure that we tell other people at the COA, we need to make sure they understand that, what we're doing. And that if you can beat, we want to prevent them from doing other people. Because now they don't just come knocking on your door. The phone, the computer, they're relentless. And the real problem is they're really good at what they do. And you may get an email, they call it phishing, they'll throw it on your phone, it looks legit. You may get it from your bank, from Sears, from something like that. And people will respond to that. And that's unfortunate because what they're trying to do, if you go onto their websites or if you go onto their emails, they're trying to put their malware in. Malware is designed to steal your personal information. That's what they want. And that's more important to them than anything. More important than the money you have in your wallet. That's what they want. And they often have, although they're all different and they're very, like I said, they're very good at what they do. But they will go, during COVID-19, there was all sorts of different scams going on about COVID-19. When 9/11 happened, there was all sorts of scams back then. There was a group going around and say they're collecting money for the people who were hurt during 9/11 for the unified way. I said, oh, so people make money the unified way. Well, think of that for a second. There is no unified way. It's the united way. And they would take other places and they would change the names a little bit, trying to get your money that you've worked for, that's your money. That's the stuff that you've earned in your life. And you have a right to make sure it goes to the place where you want it to go. So, you know, we try to talk about those things and all the issues that are going on. And the scams are relentless, whether they be the IRS calls that I think we were all getting those a couple of years ago. You know, you pick up the phone and somebody's telling you the IRS is coming to arrest you. I often tell the seniors when I go out there, I say, listen, I'm going to tell you a secret in law enforcement, but you got to promise not to tell anybody. And the police, how you doing? And the police are going to come and arrest you. They don't call you first. They just show up. So they're not going to be threatening you that way. If you're talking to a real agency, somebody there out there, you know, you're going to have a conversation with them. If they're rude to you, ask to talk to the supervisor. And there's all sorts of other scams that are out there. It would be the grandparent scam, which we had one right in our own office. You know, everybody's getting those calls in the middle of the night, getting rattled, giving up information. And unfortunately, whatever the scam may be, whether it be your grandson or your granddaughter was hurt, your grandson or granddaughter was in a car accident, they're going to be charged criminally. At the beginning of COVID, we had one where they were talking about because courts were closed down, and up in New Hampshire, they were only open one day a week. So they called a grandmother up and said, your grandson was in a car accident in New Hampshire. And so therefore, if you don't come up with $8,000 cash for his bail, he's going to be in jail for a week. So there was a time frame on it. And they'd be pushing and pushing, trying to get money. People are trying to get you money. We try to tell our seniors, make sure, be very careful. There shouldn't be any, there's romance scams, there's jury scams, there's IRS scams. They are relentless, they are out there, and we need to make sure that we protect the people in our community. The best way to do that is go out there and talk about, you know, what it is that we do. So we continue to do that. And we try to make sure that we can go out and talk about these various scams, and we try to talk about the other things that we're doing in our office, whether we're going to schools and talking about, you know, cyber sense, internet safety for kids, and talking to parents, and making sure parents understand that, you know, their kids, they pretty much shouldn't have a Facebook account when they're 10 years of age. It's a real problem when kids go on their phones and they're giving out information. And unfortunately, kids don't understand that the more information you put on, there are great, you know, the internet's a great educational tool, but it also allows predators to come into our homes and go after our children. And we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. So our kids need to be trained, we need to understand that. And we continue to live in a very challenging world. And although I was asked to talk about a little bit, I was in Brockton City Council a couple months back regarding the crime stats that were going on here in the city of Brockton and the county of Plymouth. And when you turn on your television right now and you see the terrible things that are going on across our nation, usually in the urban communities in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, unabated crime. Crime is on the rise, very scary stuff. At the same time, when that's happening here in Plymouth County, for the last 7 years, our numbers have gone down. Our violent crime here in the city of Brockton has gone down 20% since 2015 to now. That's homicides, rapes, that's traffickings, very serious crimes. Our shootings have gone down 35%. And our people being shot has gone down 25%. All during that same time, we have put together a program called Operation Safe Streets and Project Safe Neighborhoods, so many different programs that we've been dealing with over the years. And I think that's been very effective in sharing information and making sure that we can drive gun crime down and help build a vital community. And I think you look at this, you know, you look at the center of Brockton now and compare that to 20 years ago. It's night and day. You know, the amount of residences there and businesses are coming back, and they're building a brewery now down Main Street. I know they're basically shutting down the parking on Main Street tomorrow to film a movie. There's movies all the time here in the city of Brockton, and that's a great thing for the economy, I think. And that's something I'm glad that we can help to the extent that we can by getting off the streets is what they want us to do. We can't park on Main Street tomorrow. But, you know, trying to make sure we help the kids in our community is incredibly important. Making sure we break cycles of domestic violence, cycles of child abuse through our Children's Advocacy Center. And did you know that last year in Plymouth County, we had 1,000 children who were either physically or sexually abused? And so therefore, we've got to get those kids help. Because if you don't help those children, those victims, whether you have a criminal prosecution or not, very good chance that today's victims are going to be tomorrow's perpetrators. Get them the resources that they need. and break these cycles. So we've been doing that with our kids, getting our schools here in Plymouth County trauma sensitive, dealing with kids who witness violence, dealing with kids who have adverse childhood experiences. It's great because, we have so many good people that are working really hard. I'm just the face of the organization. Every day, somebody is somewhere talking about preventative things to keep people out of the criminal justice system. The best criminal justice reform that we can do is to keep kids out of the system. The criminal justice system is the depository of mental health issues and of drug issues. And there's some real bad people in the world too. And those bad people at the same time must be held accountable. They must go where they belong. We've watched our numbers go down in jail from the Department of Correction, which is where the murderers and the rapists go, the child rapists go. That's gone down in the last 12 years from 12,000 to 6,000. 6,500, I think it is. The Plymouth County House of Corrections gone down from 1,600 to less than 600. There's only 79 men doing time there right now. We have a population of 530,000 people in our community. That's like less than 1/10 of 1% of people that are in jail. There's this myth going on of mass incarceration. It doesn't exist. The right people are in jail. Our jail numbers are down. Yet at the same time, our crime numbers are down. So you focus on the bad people who are creating the majority of the crime, that small group of individuals. You remove them from the community and you watch your numbers go down. And I think we've been able to do that. We have reentry programs. I thank the mayor, Mayor Sullivan and Mayor Carpenter before him, because we were able to use reentry programs here to the guys that are in jail that are coming back, and 99% are coming back from the community at some point. We have to help them get education, deal with anger management issues, deal with parenting issues, making sure that they can be ready to come back and try to be viable. It's going to work for everybody? No. But we have a responsibility to do that. So when you look at the big picture, front end, you help kids as best as you can. Back end, you help the prisoners and coming back into the real world with the education and help that you can do. And in the middle, you need to hold the people accountable that are dealing with crime in the city. When you do that, you will watch your numbers go down. And I think that's what we've been able to do over the course of the last 7 years of those numbers. But we've got numbers for the last 20 or so that I've been DA. We go out, we get grants all the time. Since I've been district attorney, we've had almost $22 million in grants come through our office. We don't take any of the money. We partner up with various groups, like Sandy was talking about human trafficking issues that are going on now, commercial sexual exploitation of children, working with partners to break cycles, working with partners to make sure we can help them and keep kids safe. That's so important. And I'm really glad that we're able to work with all these different groups. It makes me happy to know that we're able to have some positive steps in the right direction, but you're always one day away from something bad happening. You have to continue to watch the pot. You have to continue to make sure that people understand that you're there and that your group and people are there, and that if people violate the law, we will help the people that we can help. But at the same time, if you're going to hurt somebody, if you're going to break into somebody's home, if you're going to sell poison on the streets and kill people to put money in your pocket, you need to be held accountable. And that's what we do every single day. And I'm really glad that we're able to do that. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight and say a few words. I'm not sure if people can take questions how this works, but I'd be happy to talk to them.
If I may, through you, Christine.
Sandy.
I do have a couple questions. I'm so surprised that I passed by the DA on a regular basis, and I've never had the opportunity. Well, not the opportunity. I guess I just never really thought about it.
Maybe you get arrested.
Yeah, I'm always on the good side of it. Anyways, a couple of things I wanted to ask you was, I know that you were talking about the COVID, and what were some of the challenges that you had with the elders not always up in the technology because they don't have access to computers or different technology? How were you able to reach out to them? And this is kind of a two-part question. And also one thing that I'm very passionate about and I like to advocate for is the deaf community. They're challenged anyways to be able to reach them. So how and what can we do for even them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, we were able to reach out to the local COAs, Council on Aging, and talk to the directors in those various groups, and they organize it for us. A lot of the seniors didn't want to even leave their homes. And you're right, a lot of them don't have an iPad or whatever it may be, or to Zoom to make sure they can get that word out. We were having people come to the COAs, and they were in separate rooms, and we were talking to them on Zoom. But we relied heavily on the COA directors, because plus we were only a limited amount of people in the DA's office. The county is so big and it's so diverse, and there's 27 communities that we don't have the resources to have somebody for every town such as that on a full-time basis. But we have to make sure that what we're doing is try to do the very best that we can, which I think is what we did. But the challenges were great. They were great for not only for talking to scenes, but also dealing with the trial courts, because it seemed like for a while, nobody was at our office, except me. I was in our office every day. But the courts would be opened at 9 o'clock. We'd get directions from the trial court at 9, at noon, at 3, and everything was always changing. And there was contact tracing, and you had to shut down certain courts all of a sudden. And people had to leave, and there were different quarantine times back then. It was really a challenge. And I think that one of the issues that is ongoing is that how do we get back to normal? I know we're going in that direction, but are we ever going to be back to the way it was prior to that? Maybe not in my lifetime, but I think there's a new normal now. And I think that Zoom helps to some extent.
Yeah.
And I think that some of those COAs can help the seniors get their own stuff, their own phones, their own iPhones, so that they can go out there and go on and maybe have that conversation if they are shut in their home, if they're all alone. I mean, it's a terrible thing being lonely, and we have to make sure that they have some sort of human contact. So that would actually be a great idea to see if there's any grants out there, things such as that, to help people who may be shut in and they don't have an opportunity to go out there. And be careful also as to going on phones and doing telemarketers and things like that. It's a very fine line. We find a lot of people want to have conversations with anybody. And like I said, when people going on the romance scams right now are really targeting people who have a lot of money, but they don't necessarily have a lot of people around them, and they're being taken advantage of. So to me, it's so incredibly important to get the word out to the extent that we can. I think we've done a good job, but I think you're right. I think we can do better.
I know that you have, if you don't mind me going on again, I know you have something tomorrow in Hingham, which you probably don't know yet.
No, I know that one. Yeah.
That, he's going to be doing consequences of youth substance abuse. If any of these, is there any way that we can reach or find out some of the different places that you are offering different subjects and which you're, going to be at? Is it on, do you have a website?
Yeah,
or-
it should be on PlymouthDA.com. And if anybody has any questions as to what we do, anything. I mean, if you have a question, we always have an assistant DA on call. So if you have a question, feel free to call and don't feel that I don't want to bother somebody. That's what we do. And it also delineates exactly what we've been doing over the years and the things that we've been doing to try to make this a better community. It also gives you phone numbers and information. If maybe you need to deal with the Better Business Bureau, maybe you need to deal with the Attorney General's office, maybe you need to deal with the U.S. Attorney's office, maybe some other agency, that if we don't handle it, like we're Plymouth County, that's our jurisdiction. But once you go outside our county, say it was in Norfolk County and Plymouth County, then at that point, it's going to be a twofold county. We have to deal with the Attorney General, who has the dealings and the jurisdiction to deal with the whole state. I don't have that. Neither does Mike Morrissey over in Norfolk. So we all work together. All 11 of us elected DAs, and they work together well. And we share information and we deal with conflict cases that we have to deal with, or if we have a case that's a parents of conflict. But we do so many different things. And that's the thing that I like to get the word out, is the preventative things are truly important. If ever you see me, usually I'm at some terrible scene or whatever like that. But we do so much more than that. And I think that the world has changed since I was a young prosecutor in 1984 in Brockton District on Town Street, right, where I just have a piece of paper and a file, and I wouldn't know anything about families and backgrounds. And what we need to stop. I mean, the people I was prosecuting in the 80s, we're prosecuting some of their grandkids now. How do you stop that? How do you stop that familial crime? How do you help those families so that they're not back into the system? And that's what I think some of the things we're doing for the kids who are watching very traumatic things in their life, who come from broken homes, they don't have a dad or a mom or a solid family, a nuclear family that's there. That's incredibly important, because I think everybody needs to have some leadership in their life and tell you do something wrong, especially when you're young, you need to told that. And I think many times, a lot of what's been my experience, I mean, a lot of parents want to be their kids' friends. And when my kids were smaller, I'd always say, I want to be my kids' friends too, when they're 25, but when they're 10 years old and they're living in my house, there's rules to follow. And they have to be held accountable. And I think they become better people if they have that, and they realize that if I make a mistake, I'll be held accountable for that, but I'm not going to, the world's not going to end. I'll be held, I'll be punished, whatever it might be, and go from there.
Sandy and
Thank you.
District Attorney, I just put in the chat for the members who are virtually joining us, the website that you indicated. And if anybody clicks on that, that is where the information the District Attorney talked about, if there's something going on in your community, at the Council on Aging, a number of things. So just for references.
Thank you, Mary.
Any other
Madam
questions
President,
for the district
could I ask-
attorney?
Could I ask the district attorney a question?
Sure,
I had two, but
absolutely.
I had two, but I'm gonna limit to one. Just curious on career criminals. Every day in the news, you see somebody being pulled in and he's got an armload of offenses going back years. Do you ever see something changing in that where these people will finally get incarcerated?
Well, I think, I think many times people always talk about the myth of mass incarceration, which doesn't exist in Massachusetts. We're 50 out of 50 in the country right now, statewide. And I think for the most part, the bad guys do, but the career criminals who are doing life on the installment plan, they will come and they'll commit some crime. And many times the cases go away because they're preying the vulnerable, people who won't come to court, people who won't testify, or whether it may be a domestic violence thing, or maybe they'll pick on somebody who's weaker than them. And those cases will go away. So you'll see somebody with maybe, say for domestic violence, you'll see maybe an individual rap sheet, maybe 4 domestic violence cases dismissed. Because if they're married, there's a marital privilege. You can't force the wife to testify. And sometimes you don't have any evidence other than the wife. So that case will get dismissed. And eventually, because we try to get resources to the ladies to make sure that they're going to get away from the individuals who are hurting them. I think that the really bad guys are in jail. Okay. Having said that, there's also a lot of bad guys who aren't in jail. And when you look at some other states right now, like in New York, where they have no cash bail, that's a dangerous, dangerous thing. And basically, if you don't do something incredibly significant, real bad guys are going to the turnstile into the court system. They are back on the street before the police officers write their reports. That cannot happen. Not in a civilized society. People that are hurting children, people that are hurting seniors, people that are hurting our community and breaking into things that you work for, they have to be held accountable, and they have to be held during those times. There's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of progressive positions out there that don't want that to happen. I don't understand that, because when I look at progressive policies of district attorneys across America right now, I look at San Francisco and LA and Chicago, where they had 1,000 homicides last year, Philadelphia that had more than 550 homicides last year, an all-time high, where the Baltimore DA has been indicted down there federally, with New York DAs having problems, just keeping dangerous people off the streets. We need to make sure that people understand, what we've been doing. I've been here for 20 years, and I've been prosecuting cases since '84. I did defense work for 12 years here in Brockton. So I've been on both sides of the fence, and I've tried to help a lot of people along the way, no matter what it may be. But I think people need to understand that you need to be held accountable, and that's what's not happening that I see. But when you do hold people accountable, you watch your numbers like here in Brockton, and also our numbers of incarceration, and the people that we can help get back into the community, I think it works. It takes a lot of work. And I think we need to continue to do that. But if you talk to me about 10 cases, I'd probably be upset about 2 of them. But that's the way it is. I mean, reason people disagree, you can disagree civilly. I don't always agree with the judges, but I don't work for the judges. The judges make the decision as to bail. They make the decisions as to sentencing. We make recommendations, either the defense attorney or the prosecutor. The judge makes the call. So hopefully we have judges that understand that are from our community, that understand when they sit in our community that there's repercussions when things happen. You throw a pebble in the pond, there's ripple effects, and people are watching what's going on in the court system. And the people who are out there, the real criminals, the career criminals you talk about, they know who the strong people are. Weak laws make strong criminals, and so we need to make sure we enforce our laws. I think we've been doing that here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Madam President, may I ask Mr.
Sure,
Cruz a
absolutely,
question?
Frank.
I would like to know, I'm friends with Michael Morrissey, and I speak to Mike a lot. And I've asked Congressman Lynch the same question. Why can't we make a killing of a police officer or a fireman while they're on duty the death penalty and make it a federal offense? It should be a capital offense. And who can we, as I have a son that's a police officer, and I'm sure there are a ton of them, and you worry every day because these nuts out there shooting them like when I was a kid, you never did anything like that. If you gave him some lip, he kicked you all the way home, and your father kicked you for getting in trouble. Today, they just shoot him. And I'd like to know, who can you write to say, come on, guys, this is beyond us.
For any federal law, it would have to be through our congressman and our US Senate. For any state crime, it would have to be through our local representation, whether it be the Senate or the House. There's many people that are against the death penalty for a variety of reasons. And there's a lot of people also who don't want to see it enforced, see enhanced penalties for individuals who are targeting police officers or firefighters or first responders, people that are out there putting their lives on the line every single day. I think that we have to have that. We do have some enhanced penalties if you get assault and battery on a municipal officer or things such as that. But for the most part, it's not enough. I think if somebody's willing to go up to an armed police officer and try to take their weapon or try to take their mace or try to take whatever it is, I think that they're dangerous people. They're either mentally ill, they're on drugs, or they are out and out dangerous.
Right.
Nobody in their right mind is doing that
Mhm.
unless you are a bad man and or woman and you're trying to get that done. So they have to be held, I agree with you, to the max. And I'm guessing also, if you look at those things, those individuals are going to be people who have histories, and the histories are so important. The histories show what's going to happen tomorrow. If somebody hasn't shown up in court for the last, if they have a 10-page record and they have defaults everywhere, lots of times defense attorneys don't want us to talk about their histories. The histories show the path. That's what they're going to do. And when people don't show up in court, the logjam begins. So if you don't show up, somebody doesn't show up for their court case, and the real criminals understand the game. If you're not being held on bail, you don't show up at 9 o'clock in the morning when your case is called. You show up at noontime, because by that time you'll be defaulted. And then at that point, all the witnesses will go. And then you show up at noontime or 1 o'clock, and then, oh, judge, I overslept. Oh, judge, something happened to me. And the judge, more likely than not, is going to say, oh, okay, we're going to give you a break on this one. We'll give you a new date like in 3 months from there. And the case gets kicked down the road. Meanwhile, it's cost the town thousands of dollars for overtime for the police to show up. The police officer, if you can get all of them at once, which is always a challenge because there's different courts that they go to and things such as that. I think that being a police officer and a firefighter and a first responder right now, I don't think it's ever been more challenging. I commend those men and women, like I do with the military. We have a special group of people in the world, our military, our police officers, our firefighters, our EMS, people who walk into that stuff rather than walk away from it. And I'm proud to work with them. But they understand that I have a job and that they have a job and that we're all going to do that as best as we can. We tried to get a death penalty back here in Massachusetts. Back, I think when Governor Romney was here, that didn't happen. But it would have to go to the state legislature. And in my humble opinion, I don't see it happening at the state level. I think it's probably better hope on a federal level than it would be a state level, but not so much here in Massachusetts.
Well, there was a place years ago when I was a child in Charlestown where they used to electrocute the prisoners. And now all I'm saying is there is a chamber in Terre Haute, Indiana, I believe. That's the federal death penalty. And the prison in Colorado, which is another one. But why? What bothers me is anybody who is willing to take out a gun and shoot a police officer or a fireman, it's got to be nuts. And it should be a federal crime.
Well, and sometimes there are, if you recall, back when I first became DA, there was a gentleman from Abington, Gary Sampson, who murdered 3 people.
I remember him.
And Sampson,
Right.
I was just becoming the DA, and Mike Sullivan, the DA before me, was just becoming the U.S. attorney.
Yep.
And so we worked together to make sure that we could get the federal death penalty for Sampson. Because Sampson, and the way that worked was that Sampson had stolen a car and had crossed state lines.
Right.
By doing that, that violated a federal law because he had murdered 2 people in Mass. He had murdered the other gentleman going in that direction. So that allowed them to go forward on that death penalty case. And that's another one of the issues over the death penalty is that Sampson just died in jail, like what, a year ago, maybe it was. And that case kicked around forever. And that's another avenue to this many times. There's victims in these cases. We're dealing with victims, real people in the real world. And that's why right now the legislature is talking about getting rid of life without parole. We were always told we don't have to have death penalty in Massachusetts. We have life without parole. Now, some legislators here in the Commonwealth want to get rid of life without parole, make it 25 years. Now, if that was somebody that you loved and your family was murdered 25 years ago, and you think your life's never going to be the same. But it's behind you. You can visit them in the graveyard, but you're never going to be the same. But now you have to relive it every 5 years after 25 years. At what point do you stand up for the victims? We are living in a society right now where the defendants are being treated as victims and the victims are basically being held to be invisible. We can't let that happen. These are the people who are living innocently in their homes. It could happen to any of us. You could be driving down the road and something could be happening terrible to all of you. We can't allow that to happen. People need to understand that there's going to be somebody that's going to be fighting for them. And I think that's part of my role, that's part of the police officer's role, and that's part of the firefighter's role, and the people who every day are doing, I think, doing a good job in a real challenging time. So to me, I don't foresee, my humble opinion, I don't see Massachusetts getting the death penalty for anything. Not during my time frame here, the rest of my time I'm on earth, but perhaps I think the way to go would be federal. I think that'll be more viable. But until that happens, you can be rest assured that I know that in Norfolk and other DAs up and down the coast here, we will hold the people who are hurting police officers and firefighters and municipal officers and first responders to the fullest extent of the law to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And that's all I can promise you. I'm a lawyer and I'm taking an oath to constitutionally enforce the laws here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And that's what I do. I don't always agree with all the laws, but I've taken that oath and that's what I promise to do. I will look at every case. I will not have a list of cases that I will not prosecute, which makes no sense. And you need to look at offenders, not offenses. So therefore, like some places in our country now I'm prosecuting shoplifters. You know, and look what's going on in San Francisco. They closed 14 Walgreens out there. You can just walk in and take what you want.
Right.
How can we allow that to happen? You know, if you own that store, if you're just a hardworking guy or gal, and you own a little 7-Eleven or a little store like that, people are gonna be allowed to walk in and steal what you've worked for.
And maybe take a life.
If I could, Mr. District Attorney, just because we're running a little bit of shorter time. but
I'm sorry,
Stephen
Mary.
said- No, that's okay. Stephen Santasonio has a question. And then what I would say after that question, I will make sure we share contact information to be in hold of you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I tend to ramble.
No,
No, it's wonderful.
No,
Okay, thank you. I just
have
have
to
one
have him
quick,
back again.
Yes, sir.
Timmy, I
Thank
got
you.
a problem, and it's been going on.
Wait,
This is what-
Elvin, we got
All right,
Steve
okay.
on.
Oh, okay.
sorry, Eldon, I'll be quick.
No,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut
I just-
anybody off.
Okay, I just have one quick question. I guess I just read that, with at the Walpole Cedar Junction prisons are going to be closing. Does
Yeah.
the state have the ability to absorb all those prisoners in other locations? I mean, is there an overcrowding issue that's going to result in with that closing, or do they have a plan B with that?
No,
closing?
there's no overcrowding at all. We continue to hear these myths of these jails being full. They're not full at all. Walpole, which used to house the worst of the worst criminals, they all go to Susan Baranowski now, which is out in the Worcester area.
Yeah.
Walpole is really falling apart, as I understand. Cedar Junction is. So therefore, they can certainly close that. But there are wings in other jails here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that are empty. So there's no problem. I mean, when Sheriff Flynn used to be the sheriff here in Plymouth County, he used to always say that the Plymouth County jails are always full, but he could always find room for one more. Those days are gone. Now, if somebody does something and they're convicted of it and the judge sends them to jail, there's plenty of room to send the individuals there. And that's why we make recommendations every day for that to happen. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, could I make a statement to the?
Sure, Fred, and then we'll wrap it up.
It's Fred Gilmuddy. My son was in Iraq. He was wounded twice, got the Purple Heart. He also served a lot of time in Afghanistan. When he came home, he applied to the state police and to the police in his town. And they wouldn't take him because he had an OUI in 96. Now, there's a guy that could carry a gun for us over there, wounded twice, and the state wouldn't take him. So he moved to Georgia. Sheriff's Department scooped him right up.
Sure.
And the thing I was trying to, just to impress upon you, sir, is that I worry about him more now than I did when he was in Afghanistan. I mean, they were shooting at him in Iraq.
Yep.
The sniper got him in the neck. But because he was wearing his collar, he lived. But now he's got a target on his back.
Yeah.
Down there in Georgia.
And I think, and I thank him for his service and you also. I was a Blue Star parent myself. My boy was also in Afghanistan, but I'll tell you, I mean, I think the police officers right now are really in a challenging time.
I'm just picking up on what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
No, I agree.
it's awful.
I agree with you. And like I said, I'm just a lawyer. I'm not a legislator. And I certainly can use my office as a bully pulpit to get the word out as to what I think. but I can't make people think what it is. We need to talk to our legislators, both on the state and federal level, and let them hear us and think stories like that. I mean, your son that put everything on the line for all of us. And now he can get a job up here because of some misdemeanor that occurred, 25 years ago. That's crazy. Nowadays, I think they take them anyways, to tell you the truth. But down there, that's our loss in this Georgia's game. And I pray for him, and I pray for all the people that are dealing with this difficult job. I think we all see it every day. So
Thank you,
very
Phil.
much.
We'll see.
I thank you, Mr.
Thank
Cruz.
you, District Attorney Cruz.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much for your time coming in and talking with us.
Thank you.
Tammy, while you're here, I want to,
Thank
We will-
you.
We're gonna do, I'm gonna have Eldon and the district attorney just take the question outside, just so we can continue
Thank
on.
you so much. DA
Great,
Cruz.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will show the minutes in a second, and we will have the DA back. I will have the minutes up in 1 second, Madam President.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, it's tough. Those guys go out there. He called me up and he was in the car. He said, I'm going to a domestic violence. I said, oh, shit.
Oh, good work.
That's the worst.
All right, thank you, Mary. So we're on to the minutes from March 30th. So do we have any questions or concerns on the minutes?
No, but I think we need to welcome Jean Marie's kitty cat.
Oh, yeah, I see him there. Oh, that's great.
And just for the record, Alicia from Pembroke has joined us as well.
Beautiful. All right, very good. So welcome, Alicia. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes from March 30th as submitted?
I'll make that motion. I'll
Okay,
second that.
Stephen, and then Becky, did you second?
Yes, I second.
Okay, and that was a second by Becky. Sandra, can you do a roll call vote for acceptance of the March 30th minutes?
Sure. Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, abstain, Brockton. Let me see, East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton,
Accept.
Halifax, Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Plymouth,
Accept.
Plimpton,
Accept.
Stoughton, West Bridgewater,
He accepts.
oh, yeah, thank you, and Whitman,
Accept.
thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Sandra. Okay, Brenda, on to the financials for March.
Okay, here we go. First up is the statement of expenditures report. Shows a total expenses for the month of $157,726.59. Cash position report shows income for the month at $424,431.37. Disbursements for the month were $360,903.59. Total cash available at month's end was $1,292,847.27. The OPEB account had a gain of $12,291.90, bringing the ending balance in the OPEB account to $928,057.25. Budget resources report. Total receipts for the month being $424,431.37, brings the total cumulative receipts in FY22 to $2,324,096.35. In the AAA report, total outstanding balance in pass-through invoices for AAA programs FY22 and FY21 at the end of March were $963,742. Total new billings for AAA Ombudsman and admin programs for FY21 and 22 at the end of March were $483,259. Funds received for AAA Ombudsman and Admin Program for FY 21 and 22 at the end of March was a total of $252,118. The total outstanding balance at the end of March for all AAA programs was $1,194,883. Voluntary transportation account had a beginning balance in March of $177,537.01. There were no payments to volunteers in March. Donations received in March were $125, bringing the March ending balance in the fund to $177,662.01. The ROM March 2022 statement and activity. The balance at the beginning of the month was $182,671.17. The March receipts were $5,850, bringing the total ROM FY22 receipts to $59,392. March expenses were $5,814.72, bringing the total ROM expenses in FY22 to $60,970.81. The ending balance in the account in March was $182,097.62. Moving ahead to the budget spend-town report. Page 1 total FY22 expenditures through the end of March were $1,510,449. Our spent to date percentage rate at the end of March was 63.79%. Ideal percentage in the 9th month of the fiscal year would be 74.97%. So we continue a positive trend showing an 11.18% surplus at the end of March. There are no changes in page 2 or page 3. And then the list of the March combined accounts payable is actually on a different page, Mary.
Yeah.
It wasn't connected to the packet.
No,
I can send that list out to everyone after the meeting.
thank you. And again, just regards to the OPEP, as we know, the market has not been advantageous, so we can expect some volatility for the next, but for right now, we're nearing that $1 million level. But again, that's a flux, that is in flux.
Thank you, Brenda. Well done. Any questions for Brenda on the March financials? All right. Do we have a motion to accept the financials
So
for
moved,
March?
Madam Chairperson.
All right. So motion, Frank. Do we have a second?
Second, Jean Marie.
All right. Second, Jean Marie. Okay. Roll call vote. Sandra, please, for acceptance of the March financials.
Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, accept. East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton,
Accept.
Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Plymouth,
Accept.
Stoughton, West Bridgewater, Eldon is out of the room, and Whitman. Fred Whitman,
Oh, I'm sorry. Accept.
you're right across from me. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sandy.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna put you into the room.
All right. Mary, on to staff report.
Yep, I will make this really quick because this was part of your packet, but a couple of things I wanted to add. And I was on vacation last week, so I'm a little bit more restful. And the office survived, and I was really glad to get some time away. But with that also said is, while I was away, it was school vacation week, and what I had proposed to the staff is to have a bring your child to work day. And while I did not include it into the packet, it most likely will be in one of our newsletters where the staff brought their young children, and it was really amazing to see, you know, the young staff that we have with their children coming in. And some of us are grandparent level, but I was able to FaceTime while I was at the Kennedy Space Center with the group while they met, and it was just a lot of fun to see them. So, I think that piece to the council members is that we continue to grow and continue to build the relationships with staff. From my perspective, maintaining our quality staff is really important, and I know it's important to you as you spend time on the personnel bylaws that we will talk about in a little bit. But that's one piece. And what I also didn't put in the report, and I know Peter Spagone is on this, but I was able to spend some time with the town of East Bridgewater and the city of Brockton as they had entered into an agreement on water sewer and successfully passed the city council, and was at least happy to play a role in terms of helping and navigating. But as you can see, just the other thing to hold the date for the June 29th, the annual meeting is going to take place during our regular scheduled OCPC meeting. It's not going to be a special, event out. We're going to continue with using that expo format that we used in December. We're going to continue to do that because it's off season and it provides just a little bit more casual and a bit with the holiday spirit. And again, as I mentioned, the personnel committee is reporting out, and there's going to be a bylaw meeting on May 10th. And I just have to define whether it's during the day or at nighttime, and I'll get that out to the members as well. But as in the report, it's National Volunteer Week and anniversaries, long-term care. There's lots of different facts and lots of different work that AAA continue to work with the various community groups. We did say goodbye to Patrick Hamilton. He came back to help and be a mentor, to be a strong mentor to David Klein. David and all of us were grateful to Patrick to have him come back. But Patrick said it's time for him to really cut the apron strings, if you will. A big shout out to Joanne Zigman and the Community Development Group in terms of the Easton Age Friendly Action Plan. The link is in there, and I believe that we did a newsletter about this. It's being held up across the state as being a model for other communities, and just a big shout out to the staff for their work there. And then going to be working in Duxbury and open space plans and all the wonderful things that have been going on. I'm not giving, again, always never do credit for the deep work that is being done on a day-to-day basis. And just another one in terms of the BRIC, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant. Joanne Zigman pulled together that application as well and was ranked as one of the top 3 well-written applications throughout the state. Again, just some accolades to lots of the staff and what they're doing. There's going to be a webinar for the SEDS featuring Tricia White, who's going to speak about marketing and small business needs, and continue to go through. There's lots of good things. Dottie's working on the BioConnect, the Neighbor Works Steering Committee. Lots, again, different things that are going on. Transportation Department has been extraordinarily busy, as you'll hear from Charlie later on in terms of preparing for the tip. But there are all these other things that Charlie continued to work with the program managers across the state, the Social Economic Projections Committee. Well, that sounds such as a lots of different kind of groups coming together, but really kind of digging into a lot of the that public involvement aspect from as it relates to transportation. Our drone is gaining lots of attention and involvement and working with Bridgewater State University. Charlie just informed me today, and we sat down and went over the consultation committee, really talking about the air quality and how that's tracked for all the different projects. So again, I highly recommend looking at all of the different projects. You can see the scheduled road safety audits. Those are always an important piece to most of the delegates that we've been working with. And again, one of the newer pieces in the transportation is a freight planning and action plan. So I know we'll be talking more about the tip further on the agenda, but our GIS, many of you, actually, I'm skipping a whole piece of it. Next month, we're going to be celebrating Bike Month and Bike Week. And we're going to be doing a listing of bikes. And Kyle Mowat, who is on the meeting tonight, he is leading that. We call it the bike bash committee, and really kind of motivating the region and where are the bike paths within the region, and but also as an industry, right? Because of the use of that transportation mode system as a bike to really kind of promote that. And then Sean Bailey is working on the community septic management program and has listed the different projects that he's working on here. So that is not a well deep dive, but it is a certainly an overview of the staff report.
Thank you, Mary, very much. And thank you for the staff that are on the call for all your hard work. And please let Mary, let everybody know how much we appreciate everything they do for the town.
I will.
Amazing work. So thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Mary,
for a
did you
second.
want to do the regional clearinghouse?
Madam
I
Chair, before you do
will.
that,
What's that?
just before you do that, we have a message on our screen up here that says your battery is running low. So I don't know if it's our computer in here.
Oh,
where
it
that
probably is
may be.
there. So stand by. Let me, in fact, what I'm going to do is this. Kyle Mowat is the one who pulls these together. So I am going to ask Kyle to do that while I go check on that battery. Kyle, are you able to do that?
Yeah, yep. So I manage the MIPA announcements that come out every month. So this first one is a new project in Plymouth, Carver, and Wareham, the ADM Tohonet mixed-use development. You might have seen this before as an EIR. This is the final EIR. So I just listed different aspects of the project here and the status of that. Let me just, if you could scroll down, thank you. So the project under review right now is the Long Beach mixed sediment nourishment in Plymouth. That proposed project is intended to enhance the coastal resiliency of a barrier beach, which helps protect the mainland of downtown Plymouth from coastal storms, especially nor'easters, and limits exposure to the high energy environment of Plymouth Bay. And then finally, we have one public notice. It's a notice of application and issuance of a draft groundwater discharge permit in the town of Easton. And that is for the discharge of 31,000 gallons of treated sanitary wastewater per day. And that concludes the MIPA projects.
And just once again, if any members of the council would like us to weigh in with comments, please let us know. That is, so MIPA comes out twice a month. Kyle is the coordinator. He pulls this together. We add it to the agenda in advance. So then if there is a comment you would like us to comment on, we will be more than happy to work with the communities to do so.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Stephen, did you want to report out of the meeting of the Personnel Committee as the chairman?
Certainly, yes. Thank you, Christine. First of all, before I start, I want to thank everybody who was part of the Personnel Committee. Over the past year, we've done a lot from revamping the employee handbook to adding a lot of, I think, positive changes for the staff. We spent a lot of time on that. And again, a lot of hard work went into it. So I just want to, on behalf of myself, I want to thank everybody for all the time and effort we put into it. So again, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go to my notes, Christine. I got my notes up here. So the last time the Personnel Committee met was on April 5th. And a lot of good, I think a lot of positive items came out of that. And I'm going to start as follows. We're going to look at implementing a sick bank, but right now that's going to be postponed until 2023 annual review, because the staff needs a little bit more time to review that. So again, that we're going to look at that next year's annual review. This is a good thing for the staff. Effective July 1st, 2022, everybody will be receiving 3 weeks vacation, which is good. And that will positively affect 3 employees at present. And at the same time, we're going to be reducing the amount of time needed to accrue 4 weeks of vacation from 15 years to 10 years. So I think across the board, that's a win-win for the staff. Another item that came out of our meeting was if a retired OCPC employee is rehired, they will be coming back as a contractual employee only with no benefits provided. Also, on effective July 1st, there's only going to be one accrual rate as it relates to earning vacation time. Everybody's based on work is based on a 35-hour work week, and the proportional rate for part-time staff will be based on hours worked. Time off, we looked at time off for holidays, but right now we need a little bit more further review, and that's going to be an agenda item for 2023. We're going to be adding language to the handbook to clarify the use of personal cell phones, specifically that their use becomes subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and that's important. So look for more information on that. And finally, again, another positive outcome for the employees as the designation of life partner is being added for the use of sick days. So I think that may affect 1 to 2 people at the council. So that's a good thing. And I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions? No?
This is an item for action, Madam President.
So we need a motion to accept this report and implement the changes as recommended by the Personnel Committee and presented by the Chairman, Stephen Santosorio. We have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion, Eldon.
I'll
We have a
second it.
second. Second, Frank. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Sandra, can you do roll call vote?
Sure, Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, accept. East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton,
Accept.
Hanson,
Accept.
Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Plymouth,
Accept.
Plimpton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Stephen, for leading the charge on those important issues for staff. So thank you for organizing and presenting that. Mary, did you want to give an update on the status of the retirement legislation?
I will. It's pretty much status quo from the last meeting. I did have a communication with the person who's helping the Massachusetts Association of Regional Planning Agencies with the proposed legislation. And the best way of describing it is that they're more hopeful than they've been about finding the way that the cost for the OCPC's responsibilities would not be on the regional planning agencies, but there's not a definitive answer. So it's still a work in progress. We're going to still keep this on the agenda until we finally have a really final conclusion one way or the other. So that's the status for right now, status quo.
Great. Thank you, Mary, for that report. All right, Charlie, did you want to talk about the tips?
I'd love to. So as Mary's queuing up the tip documents, when Brenda sent out the council packet, we'll note that the full document for the tip amendment and the full tip itself were included in your packages. So
I'm getting it teed up in 1 second. Here we go. Charlie, am I going to go to the summary? Am I going to just stay right with?
you want to go to the tip amendment one? I think it's on page 29 of the package.
Start right here. There's a lot of pages. Let me do this right. I got it right here. Thank you. Okay. And I will increase the size. So there.
If you could, next page, scroll down, there's a summary of projects. So the Old Colony MPO released an amendment to the existing transportation improvement program. And the reason this was necessary was through the bipartisan infrastructure law that was signed into law by the president back in the fall of 2021. It increased the amount of federal transportation dollars that we receive for infrastructure. And for the Old Colony region, for 2022, we have about an additional $3.2 million. So what we did was we worked with MassDOT and Brockton Area Transit to identify projects that could potentially be allocated within the TIP to spend this money down. So what we collectively came up with was 7 projects for Brockton Area Transit, 6 of which are capital projects, and 1 was for operating system. So this was released to a public review and comment period. And unfortunately, since the time it was released, we received some information from the Federal Transit Administration that since Brockton Area Transit has technically already applied for these funds, we couldn't flex the funds over to Federal Transit and then back could use those funds subsequently. So right now we're working behind the scenes with MassDOT and Brockton Area Transit to identify a substitute project. And we're honing in on that. And it's going to be likely, instead of these 7 projects on the list, it will be 1 project that would be the acquisition of 3 electric buses. And that will total about $3.2 million. So, you know, originally this had planned to be an action item for the council, but perhaps following any questions, if there could be some general support action item for the staff to work with BAT and MassDOT to identify a applicable replacement project, such as the purchase of 3 electric buses, and report that to the MPO in May.
I still have to my stuff again.
Dean, could I ask a question?
I have one, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, Becky. Absolutely.
I have 2 quick questions.
That's John. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought Becky was trying to do something. On page 27, table 9, it lists Avon, the intersection improves Route 28, and it says not programmed. Yet when I go to the transportation improvement summary here, it shows it in 2026. So is that what it's scheduled for, or I'm just confused between the 2?
Well, actually, John, that's the next item, but
okay, never mind.
So we're not quite there yet, but you did actually point out a typo that I had, and thank you for being a copy editor, and we'll certainly correct that in the final version.
Wasn't my intent, but okay.
All right, Becky, did you have a question?
2 questions. One is, when we were talking about buses a while back, we were saying that there was an issue with buying the electric buses because of the infrastructure, not having the infrastructure in place to only replace with electric buses. So has that changed? Have we put more infrastructure in place? Are we able to say now that buses are being replaced with electric buses? And I'll just ask my second question so I can get off. The second question is more my ignorance. With our OCPC mandate, sometimes I see information about GATRA, but does GATRA generally get funded through a different planning council?
Okay, so question number 1, the electric infrastructure for an electrified fleet. So Brockton Area Transit has a plan to ultimately replace all of their conventional buses with electric vehicles. So they're in the process within the next year in 2023 is to start acquiring the specific electric infrastructure to maintain the buses, to operate the buses, to charge the buses, et cetera. So that's one of the things we're keeping tabs on. If they purchase the 3 electric buses now, would it be too soon? And they wouldn't have the actual infrastructure in place, but it's part of BAT's long-term plan is to replace all of their current rolling stock with electric buses. So that's their plan overall. And,
Great.
And number 2 on the GATRA, GATRA operates in multiple communities, obviously Attleboro or Taunton, but it also loops around to Plymouth, Kingston, Duxbury, Plymouth. And they're actually funded through a different MPO because their headquarters are in Taunton. So they're in the Southeastern Mass MPO, and that's where their funds flow through, even though they operate service in different regions.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Charlie? So Charlie, did you want us to make that motion now for staff to work with MassDOT? Or did you want us to wait until the end?
Perhaps if we could get a motion for staff to work on an acceptable replacement set of projects and then to report that to the MPO.
Okay.
As a direction instead of endorsing this menu of projects, because it will not be the 7.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we ask staff to work with MassDOT to create a list of acceptable alternative projects. Is that correct, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so do we have a second to the motion?
I'll
All
second
right.
that.
All right, that was Sandra. Sandra, can you do a roll call vote?
Sure. Abington,
Hello,
Accept.
Avon,
we're out on a meeting at the Old Colony.
Bridgewater, accept. East Bridgewater,
All right, I'm all right.
East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton,
Accept.
Hanson,
Accept.
Inkster,
Accept.
Burke, Becky,
Accept.
okay, thank you. Plymouth,
Accept. No.
Plimpton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater,
Accept,
and Whitman.
accept.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
So,
Whoops.
so this is, are we good?
We're good.
So perhaps before we go too far into this, maybe we could jump right to John's comment about the Avon project. John, what page was that? 29?
Yeah.
That page
Sorry, it's gonna
29,
take me just a
27,
minute.
29,
29.
if I can find it.
29.
I'll bring it up on the computer. 28. 29, okay.
Must be the next one up.
There we go.
There you go.
No, it's actually page 27.
Okay,
It's not programming.
all right, there we go.
Okay, so yeah, project is the Avon Route 28 Spring. So yeah, that's a typo in the document here, John. It is actually
Okay.
programmed for fun, so it's, you know, it's better than having it the reverse saying it's programmed and it's actually not programmed. But we will have that in, I believe it's 2026, and it's currently under design. So now, Mary, if you could go to, that's a separate project that you just highlighted,
Where would you like me to go now?
page 147 of the packet, not of the document.
Mhm. All right, let me get this.
Okay, so we'll give a quick rundown of the projects that's actually funded over the 5 years. So in the road side, there are 11 road projects totaling about $68 million. And just as a tip amendment, there are some changes previously talked about with the bridge one. Some information came out and we'll spotlight that during this discussion as well. Originally, it intended to have one bridge project, but you can see in this narrative, since the tip was released to a public review and comment period, we were notified by MassDOT there are going to be 2 additional bridge projects, and both of them are in the town of Duxbury. One is the Route 3 bridge over northbound, southbound replacement for about $26 million. And the second bridge in Duxbury is the Powder Point Bridge replacement for about $157 million if you add those two together. It's going to be funded over multiple years, 2027 through 2023. And the tip also includes on the transit side about $26 million for capital improvements for Brockton area transit. That includes the replacement of 17 fixed route buses, and those will all be electric. So on the next slide, just a quick rundown of the projects that are programmed by year. In 2023, Stoughton, Central Canton, Tosca Drive, there's a plan to add geometric improvements and signalize that intersection. Project number 2 is in Stoughton. It's a Route 138 corridor from Lincoln Street to the Canton Town Line. And total cost for that project is about $11 million. And this is funded over 2 years. This is phase 1, and then phase 2 will be in 2024. And as previously mentioned, the Route 3 bridge replacement in Duxbury will be in 2023. Going down into 2024 some more, there's Brockton Route 123 at Plymouth Street, signalization, geometric improvements. This project is currently at 25% design. The second project in Brockton is intersection related work on Center, Carey and Lyman Street, and that's about $3 million. And note that there's a 25% design hearing on that project. It was held last night, and Bill McNulty of our staff attended that meeting and provided support for the project for the public record. The next project in 2024 is in Brockton. It's a systemic countermeasures and safe systems planning project for the city. And this is where MassDOT Safety Division will work with the city and Old Colony Planning Council to develop safety countermeasures throughout the city. And the final project in 2024 is a bridge replacement, Plimpton. It's Winnetoxet Road over Winnetoxet River. In 2025, the first project is in Brockton. That's the Lyman, Grove, and Summer Street intersection project. And it includes the replacement of the Grove Street Bridge. This project is currently at 25% design. And the second project in 2025 is in Easton. It's corridor improvements on Route 138. It begins at the intersection of 138 at Elm, and this will travel northerly to just south of the Union Street intersection. And just for the folks on the call, I want you all to be on the lookout for a 25% design hearing on this project. It'll be May 12th, I believe at 7 p.m. There will be a virtual public hearing. Next is 2026, and there are multiple projects here. The first is Abington intersection improvements at Hancock and Chestnut Street. The second is the project we talked a little bit earlier, is the intersection improvements at Route 28, Spring and Harrison Boulevard. This is approximately $4.2 million. And there's in Duxbury, a signalization of the Route 3 ramps at Route 3A, about $2.7 million. And Belmer provided some recent information that the contract is almost signed with the design consultant, so that's certainly great news. And running out our menu of projects in 2026 is Hanson corridor improvements on Route 14. And due to the cost of this project, it's about $11.5 million. It's funded over 2 years, first phase being in 2026 and second phase being in 2027. And in 2027, we have the Brockton intersection improvements at Crescent, Quincy, and Massasoit Boulevard. We have phase 2 of the Route 14 project at Hanson. And then last but not least is the before mentioned Carter Point Ave bridge replacement for Duxbury Bay. So that's our menu of projects. It's out for the public review. We're looking for public comments and a potential endorsement and approval of this draft tip, and report that back to the MPO. And the MPO is meeting on May 17th to hear any public comments and actually consider endorsement of this entire program.
Madam President, if I can just weigh in,
Sure.
as you can see that this is no easy task. One of the things that Charlie really does a great job at, and just really sitting down and reviewing. He's been bringing Bill McNulty and doing some training and bringing Bill into the process. So there's some sustainability of as this is going forward, and really kind of doing some nice training. But in addition to that, it's a good array of across the region, trying not to just be only on one side of the region versus, it's difficult because it's based upon the need, but based upon where the project is in terms of 25%. But as you can see, it's a lot to manage, but yet I think Charlie's done a really terrific job in addressing the multifaceted, where the project is, as well as trying to make sure that all areas of our region are covered.
Any
Quick
questions? Okay,
If I
sure, Becky,
may.
go ahead.
So, looking at the price tag on the Duxbury projects, can we assume that there was extra money brought in to do that? Because obviously that's sort of disproportionate to what we would normally see in communities on these TIP projects. And Charlie, I'm just wondering if that was some sort of special programming or special funding having to do with bridges close to the ocean or some other reason for that level of funding.
So MassDOT has a bridge program where it's on system bridge, off system bridge, and through the increases in overall funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law. So that certainly helped provide additional funds for projects. One of the things I do note is to help fund the bridge program for MassDOT is that money comes off the top of all the federal funds that come into the state and goes into the grant anticipation notes to pay for the program. So all of the regions had made an agreement several years ago when we had the Senator Artery project in Boston. It was the same circumstance. The regions agreed to provide a certain percentage of their funds to help pay down the legacy debt of that project. And in the accelerated bridge program that MassDOT launched in 2014, it's kind of the same circumstances. They didn't quite have enough money at the time to pay for it as you go. So it was financed over multiple years. So this is the same circumstance where we're funding it over future years. But the good news here is with these bridge projects, they don't compete necessarily with a road project such as the Hanson Route 14 or the project in Avon, because it's a separate bucket of money.
That's really what I appreciate that explanation, because, when you see something like that, you're like, oh, what did we do wrong not to get that bucket of money? And what you're saying is most of our road projects wouldn't qualify in that,
right,
in that criteria.
Yeah, we did make an exception with Brockton project, the Lyman Grove Summer Street project, where that's actually using regional target funds to replace the Grove Street Bridge as part of that project. So that's more the exception rather than the rule.
John, did you have a question for Charlie as
I do.
well?
I do, if you don't mind, sorry.
Sure.
I'm trying to track my poor little town here. How are these projects prioritized as far as dates?
So
let me put it this way: the intersection we're talking about is just disasters waiting to happen week to week, and we're looking now 4 years out in this project. I'm just curious how we prioritize who gets what when.
Mm-hmm. So there's kind of two main buckets of consideration for what year the project is in. One is project readiness, and MassDOT works with us to provide the design schedule, where the project is at the design process. For example, the Avon project is at a pre-25% design. A project has to go through 25, 75, 100% design submission, permits. So a typical design might take 4 or 5 years. So that Avon project, for example, where it's in an earlier stage of design, it simply wouldn't be ready for advertisement in an earlier year of the TIP.
Okay, thank you.
Whereas an earlier project such as the Canton Central and Tosca Drive project, that's currently at 100% design. project in the first year, the tip has to be ready for advertisement within that given year. And that includes approved design, and it also includes acquisition of your right-of-way certificates as well, and all environmental permits.
Thank you, Charlie. Any other questions for Charlie on this 2023 to 2027 tip? All right, so Charlie, you, the vote we took already took care of the 2022 to 2026 tip, correct?
Yes.
So you just need a motion to accept this draft of the federal fiscal year 2023-2027 tip
Yes,
from
please.
us. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, Madam Chairperson.
Second.
Okay. All right. So we've got a motion from Frank and a second from Fred, I believe, to accept that motion, and that is approval of the federal fiscal year 2023 to 2027 draft of this tip. So Sandy, can you do a roll call vote?
Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, accept. East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton,
Accept.
Hanson, Kingston,
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Plymouth,
Accept.
Plimpton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater,
Accept.
Whitman.
Accept.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mary, looks like last item is the July 15th deadline for virtual and remote meetings.
Yes, and Madam President, as you know, there's been just a couple of conversations amongst just a small group of members, just in terms of processes of how to proceed. So obviously on July 15th, at this point, we know that there's a deadline for these remote virtual meetings. And my thought was that bringing this to council to potentially to at least have a letter be drafted on behalf of the council to our legislators, asking them to look into the possibility of legislation that could allow this format to continue, particularly for regional planning entities. It could apply also to county government. It could apply to others, but I think what the matter is that we have been getting a very verbose meetings with involvement from those across the region. If in fact, if the July 15th deadline does not get extended, it would really kind of, I think, put a little bit of a squash on then having either one of two action items, right? Would be either everybody comes here to the council, to 70 School Street, and or to have staff be going to other parts of the region. Challenges with both, right? For me to be running back and forth, I couldn't be doing if this was someplace else, making sure that we have the ability. I think we should always have the ability to have virtual. So I wanted to, in talking to the president and having this at least be on the agenda, I don't really have a whole lot of answers. There's a lot of legislative answers to this, but I wanted to at least bring it forward to see if in fact that we send a communication to our legislative delegation to ask for their assistance in exploring the opportunities or options for us to be holding meetings in a virtual remote hybrid format.
Any questions for Mary on this request?
I don't have a question, but I would say having probably one of the longest travel times, it is a little difficult with all my other meetings to attend. So this does make it a little more convenient. Certainly, I think the in-person is better, but the option I think is great, especially if you're doing multiple meetings in two different areas of the Southeastern Mass. So I would make that motion to have the OCPC send that letter requesting delegation to file that legislation.
Great, thank you, Lee. So we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second, Stephen. Sandra, can you do a roll call vote?
Sure. Abington,
Accept.
Avon,
Accept.
Bridgewater, except East Bridgewater,
Accept.
Easton,
Accept.
Hanson,
He left,
Kingston,
sorry.
Accept.
Pembroke,
Accept.
Plymouth,
Accept.
Plimpton,
Accept.
West Bridgewater,
Accept.
and Whitman.
Accept.
Great. Thank you, Sandra. All right, so our next meeting, Mary, is it going to be on May 24th for the Finance Committee
is-
and then the 25th for the whole council?
That is correct. And just from last night's finance meeting, there's going to be, we're looking to schedule a special finance meeting just to talk about the declaration of trust. So I will share the recording with the rest of the council members so they can hear about that. But it was a lot of time and continue to get the details so we can have a declaration of trust to be presented to the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mary. All right, so any suggestions for a future agenda item?
The only thing I would recommend, Madam President, is we're going to be having a very detailed in May and June, between either the annual meeting in June and then also with the budget in May. I would recommend that if there are suggestions for presentation, that we hold off until either the summer and or September.
All right, that's a good suggestion, Mary. We've got the trust that's on our radar, and we're really going to be busy with budgets and all of that. Okay, all right, that sounds good. All right, so we have completed our business. Thank you, everyone, so much for participating tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Frank, do we have a second?
Second.
All right,
Can't
second,
second
Sandra.
that.
All right,
Second.
show of hands, all in favor? Good night.
Night, thank you.
Thank you.